Across all kinds of sports, there are certain benchmarks that certain players reach to solidify themselves as good players. In the NFL, 4,000 passing yards and 25 passing touchdowns is typical for a pocket passer type QB. NASCAR is not any different. The average champion since the year 2000 has scored 5 wins in a single season, so this would be considered the benchmark for an elite driver. But sometimes, there are those certain athletes that exceed the benchmark and separate themselves as the elite. In the NFL, this would be hitting 5,000 yards, which has only been done by 8 quarterbacks. Well, 8.5 if you want to count Jameis Winston.
Winston steps up on picked off by Connolly.
But in NASCAR, the benchmark of 10 wins just seems extraordinary. In the modern era, there have only been 11 drivers to accomplish this feat. So today, we're going to look at every driver that won 10 plus races in the modern era. So, you may be wondering why I'm not mentioning anything pre-modern era. Well, before 1972, the seasons were 40 to 50 and at one point 60 races. And a 10-win season happened 21 times. And if I listed all of them, we'd be here all day. But I know some of you were wondering about the pre-modern era, and don't worry, I got you. This is the list of drivers that won 10 plus races from 1949 to 1971. Bobby Allison was the first driver to accomplish this feat in the modern era. In 1972, Allison wasn't able to win the championship due to the format at the time being laps completed, and Richard Petty had over 200 more laps that season. Allison was still able to salvage a second place points finish, and the 10 wins he got that season, 9 of them came in consecutive streaks. He won his first and second races at Atlanta and Bristol, and then picked up another win 6 races later at Dover. Then he went on to win 3 in a row, and then won back-to-back 2 more times that season. Overall, Allison's 1972 season was elite, but it's just a shame that he wasn't able to grab a championship to go with it. The next driver to pull it off would be David Pearson. In 1973, David Pearson didn't even run the full schedule. He only ran 18 of the 28 races and won 11 of them. That is a winning percentage of 61%. And on the season, that is a winning percentage of 40%. Even though he didn't run the full season, he was still able to finish the season 13th in the standings, and was able to beat 8 full-time drivers. Pearson was nearly unstoppable this season, and won 4 in a row twice, one of them being a 5 in a row streak. In Pearson's 18 starts, he had 4 DNFs. In the 14 races he did finish, he had 11 wins, 14 top 5s, and 14 top 10s, and had an unbelievable average finish of 1.3. Honestly, the rest of the field is lucky that Pearson didn't run the full schedule in 1973. In 1974, Cale Yarborough was one of 2 drivers to accomplish this. In his 1974 season, he was locked in a tight battle for the championship, but what ultimately cost him the championship was 4 DNFs in the final 7 races, which cost him valuable laps on the track and resulted in him losing the championship to the next guy on our list, Richard Petty. Petty in 74 was really consistent, and while he did have 1 more DNF in 1974 than Yarborough, Petty finished some of the bigger races from the time, and in this season, Petty also recorded 22 top 5s and 23 top 10s, and had an average finish of 6.8. Definitely a championship caliber season in any era. In 1975, Richard Petty would do it again for the 8th and final time in his career. Petty in 1975 absolutely crushed the opposition. He would win 13 races and had 21 top 5s and 24 top 10s and a 6.6 average finish. And all this was done in 30 races. Petty would lock up the championship 4 races early and finish the season with a massive 722 point gap to second place Dave Marcus. Petty was so dominant this season, and the feat, not just 10 but 13 wins, is something that wasn't done again for almost 25 years. In 1976, David Pearson was once again not even a full-time driver. Pearson only ran 22 of the 30 races that season and managed to win 10 of them. In those 22 starts, Pearson managed 16 top 5s and 18 top 10s, and Pearson had 4 DNFs that season, but in the races he did finish, he had an unreal 2.1 average finish. Even with the DNFs, Pearson had the best average finish in the series, and it was actually a position and a half better than that year's champion, Cale Yarborough. Just to think, if Pearson would have ran the full schedule that year, Yarborough's 3 straight probably doesn't happen. In 1978, Cale Yarborough was looking to win his 3rd consecutive championship. In the previous 2 seasons, he absolutely dominated with 9 wins in both seasons, but in 1978, he finally got over that hump and had his 2nd 10-win season, and it ultimately led to him winning his 3rd consecutive championship by almost 3 races over 2nd place driver that year, Bobby Allison. Yarborough this season recorded 10 wins, 23 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and a 6th place average finish. We would have to wait 3 years for this to happen again, and it was done by Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip in '81 was in a massive battle for the championship with Bobby Allison. These 2 drivers dueled it out for the entire season, and going into the finale at Riverside that year, Waltrip held a lead of 83 points. All he had to do was finish the race in 20th, and at Riverside, Waltrip finished 6th and sealed the championship. In this season, Darrell didn't even have the best average finish, but he won 7 more races than Allison, and this is ultimately what gave him the edge over Allison, and resulted in Waltrip's 12-win season being a championship-winning year. But he would do it again the next season, winning 12 races for the 2nd consecutive year. In 1982, Waltrip opened the season strong but was consistently behind his championship rival Bobby Allison, and with 4 races left, he was still almost 40 points behind. But Waltrip put together the stellar last 4 races with finishes of 1st, 3rd, and 3rd, and was able to make a 109-point swing in his favor, and he was able to claim his 2nd consecutive championship. Waltrip led the series in wins, obviously, top 5s, and average finish, and became only the 5th driver to have consecutive 10-plus win seasons. It would be 3 seasons until we had another 10-win season, and the guy breaking the streak would be Bill Elliott. In 1985, Elliott was in a tight championship battle with Darrell Waltrip. Elliott fought all season, but in the end, he was over 100 points away from winning the championship, and finished the season 2nd in points. Now you may be wondering, how did Elliott lose the championship to a guy that had 8 less wins? Well, going into the finale, he was only 20 points away, but in the finale, he would wreck out and he finished the race 31st, while champion Darrell Waltrip finished 7th. An interesting thing about this season was the 2 drivers' average finish when they were not winning. When Waltrip didn't win races, his average finish was 8.1, while Elliott's average finish while not winning was 12.2. This was the difference as to why Elliott did not bring home the 1985 championship, and it boils down to the old saying of consistency is key. The great Dale Earnhardt was able to pull off this feat in 1987. Earnhardt's 1987 season was one of the best in NASCAR history. He was able to record 11 wins, 21 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and an unreal 5.9 average finish, which was 4 positions better than 2nd place Bill Elliott. Earnhardt was able to lock up the 87 championship 2 races early, which just goes to show how consistent he was in 1987. Earnhardt dominated every statistical category and was miles clear of everyone else, and it resulted in his 3rd championship. Rusty Wallace would be the next guy to reach the 10-win mark in a season. Now while he did pull this off, it ultimately wasn't enough to claim the championship. The man he lost to was Dale Earnhardt, who claimed his 6th title in this season with 6 wins, 4 less than Wallace. Now out of all the 10-win seasons I've seen in this video, this one was probably the least impressive. Every driver that had a 10-win season in this video had the points lead at some point late in the season, except for David Pearson, who didn't even run the full schedule. Wallace only held the points lead for 3 races, and that was in the first third of the season. But he did have an impressive stint late in the year. In the final 8 races, Wallace had 5 wins and 7 top 5s, and the gap from him to Earnhardt went from over 300 points to just 80 points at season's end. That is impressive, and if he had the 36 race schedules that we have today, he probably could have kept Earnhardt from winning the title. In 1996, Jeff Gordon recorded 10 wins, but somehow lost the championship to his teammate Terry Labonte, who had 8 less wins. The key stat that really killed Gordon in this championship battle was DNFs. Terry had 2 while Gordon had 4. And it also really didn't help that Gordon opened the season with a 40th and 42nd place finish in the first 2 races. Now I'm going to do something that I did earlier and look at the non-winning average finish. In 1996, Gordon's non-winning average finish was 13.5, while Terry Labonte's was 8.7, almost 5 positions better than Gordon. But while Gordon did come up in 1996, he would prevail in 1997. Gordon would win 10 wins for the second straight season and would win his second career championship in a nail-biter over Dale Jarrett and Mark Martin. These 3 drivers were the original Big 3 before Edwards, Johnson, and Busch in 2008 or Busch, Harvick, and Truex in 2018. These 3 drivers were the top 3 in every category and accounted for 21 of the 32 races that season. Gordon recorded 10 wins, 22 top 5s, 23 top 10s, and a 9.6 average finish, which were all top 2 in the series. But the bad thing was that he almost choked the championship away. With 4 races to go, he had a 125-point lead over Mark Martin. But in the last 4 races, he only had 1 top 15 finish, which was a 4th at Rockingham. But he did enough to where he only had to finish 18th at the finale, and he finished the race 17th. So safe to say, he got pretty lucky. However, the same can't be said for his 1998 season. In 1998, Jeff Gordon recorded the best statistical season not only of his career, but of anyone in the modern era. Gordon recorded 13 wins, 26 top 5s, 28 top 10s, and a 5.7 average finish, a modern era record. Gordon managed to win 39% of the races this season, which is an insane winning percentage. This was also the 3rd consecutive season that Gordon won 10-plus races, something that had only been done once, which is when Richard Petty pulled it off from 1967 to 1971, the pioneer era with little competition. But what was more impressive about this season is who he had to beat to win the championship. Mark Martin this season had 7 wins, 22 top 5s, 26 top 10s, and an 8.6 average finish. Definitely a championship caliber season in any other year. But this was the year of Jeff Gordon, and Gordon turned in a career year of his own, and because of that, he would win his 3rd championship in 4 years. We would have to wait another 9 years, which is the longest streak up to this point, and it would be done by Jimmie Johnson, and the way he pulled it off was phenomenal. Entering the chase, Johnson was 6th in points before the cutoff race, and was trailing his teammate Jeff Gordon for the majority of the regular season. But Johnson was able to secure the 1 seed due to having 6 wins in the regular season. But in the first 5 races of the chase, he had no wins, 2 top 5s, and 3 top 10s. Not bad, but he left Charlotte 2nd in points and 68 points behind his teammate Jeff Gordon. But as we all know, he would win 4 straight races to catapult himself to the points lead and finish the season 1st in points, winning the championship by 77 points over his teammate and championship rival Jeff Gordon. We would have to wait another 14 more seasons until someone would score 10 wins again. In 2021, Kyle Larson would return to the Cup Series after being suspended the year prior, and expectations for him were low, maybe 2 wins and a round of 12 appearance. But Kyle Larson shocked the world in the regular season, winning 5 races, recording 14 top 5s, 18 top 10s, and was able to win the regular season championship. In the playoffs, he managed to win the Bristol night race, and then went on to win 4 of the last 5 races that year, the last of which being the championship race at Phoenix. In this season, Kyle Larson was able to win 3 races in a row at 2 different points in the season, something that hadn't been done since Dale Earnhardt in 1987. Kyle Larson was so dominant this season that he led laps in 25 races and led the most laps in 13 of those races, and this all led to him leading 2,581 laps, the most in the 36 race era. Larson ended the season with 10 wins, 20 top 5s, 26 top 10s, and a 9.1 average finish, one of the most dominant seasons in recent memory. In NASCAR history, the list of drivers to win 10 plus races in a single season is extremely exclusive. Only 18 drivers have pulled this off, and only 10 have done it twice. And the people that pulled this off 3 or more times are Richard Petty, David Pearson, and Jeff Gordon, with Petty pulling this off 8 times. Now the 38 times that someone won 10 or more races, only 23 times have those drivers won the championship. Now, having a 10-win season is probably something that NASCAR will never see again, with the sport being as competitive as it is today. All the drivers mentioned today did something phenomenal, and it is one of the most impressive feats any driver can ever accomplish. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to help me out. Follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys next one for another video. Y'all have a good one.